everyone, it's me, John Ward, and I am back with another One Filmmaker, One Film. And today my guest is.
Hi, I'm Kyle Acosta. I'm an independent filmmaker, born and raised in Santa Maria, California, and I'm now stationed in Las Vegas, Nevada.
Awesome. And we are here to discuss Rightways Down. And
yes.
Oh, go on.
Oh, no. Excuse me.
So which I like. So Rightways Down, I want to start with the length of the film because most independent films that you get from independent filmmakers are, if they're really micro budget, are 70 minutes. Sometimes they're maybe 80 or 90 minutes. Yours is close to 3 hours. How did this start off? Was it like, I have an idea, it's going to be 90 minutes, and then you wrote it to 2 hours, and then it became 3 hours, or did you always think it was going to be 3 hours? How did that happen?
I'll throw another one at you. Actually, the 3 hour version that you saw has been cut down for Tubi TV. The original theatrical exhibited release that was in theaters was just under 4 hours at 232 minutes, and had an intermission as well.
Oh wow! I had a feeling about that.
Yes, the version you saw is probably about an hour and 20 minutes cut out of the film, but it's it was actually, I always knew it was going to be a bigger film. I didn't know it was going to be quite that long. I'm quite happier with some of the shortened lengths that we made. I think it makes it move a little faster, but there are whole storylines that kind of are just dropped and things aren't explored. I'm told that most people prefer if they've seen the film, prefer the elongated version of it. But even then, on paper, for what went from paper to screen, it was probably only maybe 65-70% of what originally was true to how it was supposed to go. So what we ended up with, though, I was quite happy with, to be surprised. Actually, it was probably my third film ever. So it was actually a pleasant surprise. And it was honestly a challenge to myself to see if I could do it.
Yeah, it's very ambitious, and it's funny is when I was thinking like, okay, maybe this started at 70 minutes, then it turned into 90 in 2 hours. I was thinking, I bet somewhere out there's like a 4 hour cut, and this is cut down from 4 hours. So you pretty much confirmed what I was thinking, because I think that's how longer films like this are. Dances with Wolves was longer, and a lot of these movies, even his Wild Earp was longer, and then they cut them all down to like a 3 hour cut. Will we ever be able to get to see that longer cut?
Oh yes, it was actually on Amazon Prime for I think almost 2-3 years, and then once the curation ended, it was still available and on demand for various sites. But recently, when we were able to go on to Tubi, I just shortened and lengthened it a bit, because it was with all the commercials and things, it was turning into War and Peace. So and we had already trimmed down and made these other 3 cuts. There's a shorter one that'll come out probably in a year or so. That's about 2 hours and 40 minutes, and that's when I stopped messing with it. But yeah, no, the version that you saw though is, I think, probably one of the I quite enjoy that cut. Honestly, it doesn't feel like it drags for me. There's still mistakes. There's a lot of mistakes that I always see, but I do appreciate the how the film itself feels like it moves a bit smoother.
So it seems like you could almost do like a Ridley Scott and release 3 or 4 different versions of the film with like different cut names on them, to it's this version and this version and this version for people to watch. So will that ever happen, or will it pretty much just be a brand new definitive director's cut that we'll see?
Well, actually, I hope that all 3 cuts will be available. Right now, I'm distributing through a wonderful company called Film Hub, newer company, but I've actually enjoyed working with them quite a bit, and they've actually been able to curate and keep it going. And I believe they hold the licensing until at least for another 10, I think it's 6 or 10 years from now. So as long as they, as long as people keep wanting to watch it, hopefully it will be around. But I'm trying right now currently to find a distributor for hard copies, Blu-rays, DVDs, things like that. But that's a new search, so that's only a more recent endeavor.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, it's Vegas. It's very dry out here. So, and I got to turn off all the AC. So, of course, you'll see me be drinking a lot while we're doing this. Unfortunately, well, you're in Vegas, so you know that.
No, not a problem.
Yeah, we both understand.
Oh yeah, it's getting the heat. The heat is on.
That is true, as the song says. I have the notes that I sent you, and then I showed you my written notes while I was watching the film. So I'm going to go between both of those, back and forth.
Not a problem.
So how and when did you come up with this idea? Like, what made you want to make this film in particular?
Well, I had just moved to Ventura, California. I had just finished my second small independent film called Children's Games, and it was the first time I'd actually gotten a proper audience to actually screen it, and it was all that that first time experience, baby's first film, and all that, and it got me enough to be able to finally go down to where I wanted to be, and I was working as a projectionist at the Regency Buenaventura 6 in Ventura. And it was one of the last theaters to actually cut and show a 35 millimeter film.
Oh,
and it was
nice.
it paid, I think it was $8 an hour. It wasn't union, nothing like that, but the pleasure of actually being able to cut and screen. Some of them were original prints, some of them were new and fresh prints. I mean, it was, I can't stress to you the how it felt whenever you go upstairs and you would just hear all 3 or 6 of the projectors going at once.
Oh no, I definitely know.
So
I've worked in a movie theater myself for probably about 10 years.
So
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it was. And while I was up there in the projection booth, I I just started writing this film. I knew I was going to make another film. Like I said, I just finished my second, but I had never really released it. I'd never distributed a film before. I just made it and showed it, and hopefully a few hundred people saw it, and that was it. And while I was at this theater, I I kept getting challenged. I'd be writing on my napkins and on my back of my popcorn bags and things. And I kept getting challenged, for my ideas. People say, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm writing a script." And they'd be like, "Oh, wow, that looks really long. No, I don't think anyone's gonna want to watch that." And I was like, "Yeah, maybe we'll see." And it might have been right, actually. When I was writing it, I was like, "I don't know, maybe it's kind of long. Maybe they won't watch it." And then but I kept writing it, so I figured, well, if I've gotten this far and it's this long, I should actually finish it, So I finally finished it, and I don't know what bug I got inside of me, but in my head I was like, I'm gonna make this. Oh, I know what it was. I had just watched for the first time David Lean's Ryan's Daughter in a theater, and it completely. I had never seen a film quite like that before, and I came out of it. I was like, I'm gonna make a film like that, but I'm gonna do it on a very micro budget level. I'm gonna shoot these big sweeping things. And then I finally started trying to do it, and I realized, oh no, this is quite difficult. We originally started to shoot it on film, and then the film cameras, the crystal sync motor would break, so we couldn't actually run the camera for film. So we ended up going to digital at the behest of my beautiful, wonderful grandparents, who were they took pity on me and bought me a very nice 4K camera. That just, it was shot on a little camcorder, probably about the size of no lenses, had no sound. It was recorded with a sound that was built into the mic of the camera, which I know everyone can tell. I can every time I watch it, but it's it's what we had. So I figured, no, we're gonna keep shooting it. And I kept shooting some scenes. I should shoot some scenes. It would kind of come out the same way. Sometimes it wouldn't. And then as we got further and further into it, I had shot so much. I was like, no, we're going to finish this. So I just kept pushing and making everyone that I knew help me make this movie. And they were very nice and kind and lovingly enough. They did it. And every single one of them you can see credited in that film. Everyone that worked on that is either a friend or pulled a favor. I'd worked with them on the stage or in the theater. The only one we didn't know was the gentleman, Jay, Mr. J. Adam Young, and he played the villain Charlie Barker. And we met him on Free Comic Book Day in a comic book store. I had my script in my hand. I just gotten a print. Yeah, yes, yeah. I had just gotten a fresh print of my script, and I was like, I got some little extra pocket money. I'm gonna go buy some comics. Hush hush. I wouldn't say anything. So I went into the comic store, and as I was waiting in line getting my free comics, I heard this very Bristolian English accent, and this gentleman was talking about these little Star Wars bobbleheads that he had. And I turned around, and when I first saw him, I was like, holy, I almost swore to myself, and I was like, is that Richard Harris? Like, it looked like him. I knew Richard had passed for some time, but I could have sworn it was some of that caliber. So I walked up to him and I was like, are you an actor? And he goes, oh, yes, I am. I'm like, well, you'll be in my film, right? I'm going to tell you all about this film. At that point, I didn't realize how these things were done yet. So I would just go up to this man and I was like, hey, you sound like you will do this, right? You can do this. And he was the nicest. He's family now. And he agreed to do it. And then once we started shooting with him, the rest of the film kind of just took off and made itself. What didn't work, we changed around, or what we realized just looked ridiculous, we tried to drop and just make it. We just tried to make a good film, but to what I originally wanted, which was just big scale, really big budget. And
you wouldn't know that. You would not know the small budget, so it does not look like a small budget at all, which I'll get into. So with some of these other questions.
Thank you.
Well, actually, budget's a good segue. So how did you determine, the budget after, you got your script that's like that? Was my hand? There we go, like that thick. Mm-hmm. And how did you determine the budget on something like this?
We calculated up everything afterwards and realized how much we'd spent, and then we didn't actually think about it. It was at one point I was eating popcorn and hot dogs from the theater because I wasn't affording to buy food. I just kept putting away, and we'd be putting away. And same with my friends. My friends that were in the film worked with me in the theater, and we would just eat hot dogs afterwards. Our boss would be kind enough and knew what we were doing. He'd be like, hey, here's a soda, here's things like that, man. You eat, child. And so we would do that. And finally at the end, that, and like I said, family stepping in and saying, we'll lend you this, we'll lend you that. And at the end of it, we probably, I think we spent about $3,500 on the whole thing, and probably 2,000 of that was from the camera.
Oh wow!
So and the other half of that was probably for the theater rental for when we premiered it, which they also were very kind enough and only charged me for the discount rate. But it was still the equivalent rate, but it was better for me because 2 discount rates together equaled 1. And my film was long enough to be 2 films. So I agreed to that. I thought that was fair. And that was it, actually. Everything else was all we already had. We had airsoft guns, we had a few things we might have picked up at the thrift store and things like that. But everything else we just either happened upon, or we had a friend who had an idea and said, oh, you should come shoot here. That sounds like that. It was very word of mouth. And it took a long time to film. It took almost 2 years to shoot. So it was a lot of footage. Yeah, it was a long shoot, and it took probably about 6 to 8 months editing in post, which didn't complete until probably a few hours before before the film was being shown in a theater. So we didn't have time to make a DCP. We'd only made a DCP of the first half. So we ended up having to send one of our producers speeding across Ventura like Speed Racer in his car to get my whole computer tower to bring back to the theater so we could hook it up to the projector and then play it off the monitor before the intermission ended. And we were lucky that the computer glitched all but once, and we don't think anyone quite noticed. So touch wood, of that was one of the scariest and most life exhausting hours of my life. But it turned out okay, and people stayed and people watched it. So it was actually quite a good memory.
Oh, that's awesome. So while watching it, I got a kind of a Michael Mann Heat vibe from it, with like the acting and the lighting, the length, the type of characters that are in it. Was that in your mind while making the film at all, or did it just kind of happen to turn out that way?
Oh no, absolutely. I think Michael Mann's Heat is one of the most underrated, even though it's highly proclaimed and highly praised, it's still one of the most underrated masterpieces.
Yeah, I agree.
Ever. It's a fantastic film on all levels, not just as a crime film, but it's one of the most powerful films I've ever seen with imagery. And Dante Spinotti is a absolutely wonderful cinematographer. All of his films are beautiful, but that one stands out in particular to me. But it was absolutely an influence, that film. I would also say another big one would be Point Blank with Lee Marvin.
Oh yeah, great film.
Another one would be this part, I tried to, there's a couple scenes you might have noticed I tried to copy or mimic. I'll pay homage. I won't say that. We're all thieves. But I tried to pay homage to De Palma for the Untouchables with some of the shadows and things that we were trying to do. But we were quite limited, but it was fun to be challenged to try to, just work things out. And most of that film was learning, and I loved every minute of it, because each film I do learn more and more. But that one in particular, I learned quite a lot. But yeah, also that, and how to be inspired by things, but also try. I didn't want to copy any of these films, is the one thing that I said to myself. I really didn't. I wanted to make a film in the vein of that. I wanted to do things that were effective like that. And I wanted to utilize some of the techniques, and actually quite a few of the techniques, because they're fabulous, especially with lighting, like you said, and colors. That's one of the films where I learned that color can really change and affect an audience's emotion. Actually, and I've my only last two films have I actually really immersed myself in the color grading process and learning how to actually process and think of even if you're shooting, whether you're shooting digitally or on film, to think about the emotion that you want to portray in your film, but also what are you naturally getting. The thing I like to do with film is it has its own veins. Has its own, it starts to have its own rhythm. It has its own thing. You control it, you guide it to what and as close to what you originally wanted to, but eventually it takes its own thing. It's almost like having a kid, and then you do your best to shape it as best you can and get it up to where it's as strong as it can be, and hold it up on its own two legs, and then you hope when you back off that it holds itself up all right. And that's how I feel about films, honestly. After a while, you have to learn if it's not always going to be what you want it to be. And that was the film I learned that on. And that's, I think, the most important lesson a filmmaker can learn. I'm still learning that too.
Oh, I think every filmmaker, it doesn't matter if you're Spielberg or whoever. I mean, you still learn on each movie. So it's to kind of use your analogy of the child. It's even with a parent who has a child, you still take influences from other parents. and kind of go, well, Jim does this with his kid and Sally does this with her kid. And you kind of, and that's almost where the De Palma type of thing comes in, where you can still have the film as your own, because even though a lot of people will say, oh, Brian De Palma just rips off Hitchcock. And he, when he was, a student of Hitchcock, he still has his own style to what he does. And now these days people go, oh, that guy just ripped off De Palma. So everybody seems to kind of take from somebody else, as long as you just kind of make it your own. It still has to be your style. So even though I caught little things, which maybe you didn't even intend, like the actor who played Charlie, is I was kind of thinking like the Boondock Saints. You had near the end, the characters aiming the two guns at each other. I was thinking John Woo. But it's, as long as you make it your own and, just not steal, which some people do directly, then there's nothing wrong with that. It's fine, because it's still your movie. And like you said, you're just, influenced, or it's a tribute to, those filmmakers. And it could be, maybe it's a tribute to Spielberg or James Cameron, or even Ed Wood or John Waters. It doesn't really matter. It's those are the people who influenced you.
No, absolutely. And I will say I've loved film since probably before I could walk or know what a movie was. It was on, and I would be fascinated, and I'd be that kid that was really quiet and would just kind of sit there and stare at it. But I would have to say my favorite and greatest influences are actually not so much modern directors. Actually, I really admire. I admire the golden and what I call the silver age, which doesn't exist. It's just what I would say the 70s and the 60s, right after your Clark Gables and your Humphreys and them, and your John Huston, who's actually a huge influence of mine. I loved John Huston. I love Stanley Kubrick. All of those. Unless I pronounce his name wrong, which is blasphemy. But Dostoevsky, he's a god with a camera. But yeah, no, I agree with you 100%. And in that film there are quite a few homages, and actually Charlie's character was not from necessarily from Boondock Saints, but actually I was heavily inspired by Michael Gambon's performance from The Cook, the Thief, His Wife, and Her Lover.
Oh, okay.
When I was writing that, and that film, I saw that in college, and I've never forgot. I've only seen it once, but I'll never forget that one. That's a Peter Greenberg film.
Yeah, good film.
Very little golden gem. Oh yeah, great film. But yeah, I was heavily influenced. I was trying to do something very different. I was trying to do an avant-garde, almost very Malick. I was watching a lot of Terrence Malick, and I was trying to see what I could do with narrations. That's actually quite a lot of things that were cut from the film. There's not actually quite a lot of his little monologues that spur out through the film. Quite a few of those were cut in this version that is out right now, currently on Tubi. But in the director's cut, like you mentioned before, there's probably a good 20 minutes or so of throughout the film where he's just going back and forth in his mind, whether philosophically or where he is psychologically. But yeah, they're different. They all have different feels, I feel, by the end of the film, or I should say the picture.
Oh yeah, definitely. So let's actually I want to kind of get into the film now. So one thing that I found interesting was just the opening. So you have your opening credits, and it's the way I'm going to put this is kind of weird because that's how I have it written. So opening credits, we then see a gun, a butt, a bathtub, blood, and then we see from there it then goes to like the beach, surfer, water, then it's calm, back to the bedroom, then we're seeing full frontal nudity. And so it's an interesting way of doing it, of the credits. And something that deals, you got nudity in there, you got blood, you got a bathtub, which then goes into kind of this calming beach with a surfer. And then, it's very calm. And then it goes back to the bedroom with, kind of bringing back up like the blood. And then there's the full frontal nudity when he gets the call. And that's you. You're one of the actors, if not, I would say the main actor. There's a lot of actors in this. It's your story. And how did you feel about that? How did you feel about being, the writer, the director, the actor, and one of the very first things you see is you naked? How did that come about? How did you feel?
Well, I honestly, I truly didn't put too much thought into that. The way it became cut and how apparently that was how the film was going to open once I started doing it. Yeah. Well, at the very beginning, I went, oh, I don't know. But as I kept going, I just, yeah, I don't know that was not a predetermined decision. In the script, it simply reads TK is shot, wounded, and sitting on a bathtub, and that we were talking about things that are borrowed and things from other films, and that was actually something I will admit I 100% borrowed or was influenced by No Country for Old Men, when Javier Bardem is also shot and he's sitting on the bathtub and he's completely naked and he's actually trying to dress his gunshot wound and he's pouring so that was definitely something that I thought about, and I was like, well, I've already established that if I'm comfortably being either completely naked or if I've been shot, like I would assume if I'm with that surfer mentality, maybe I wouldn't even think twice about just walking around the house naked or things like that. And yeah, I wasn't like, ooh, I'm gonna show him something here. It was more I was trying to go for, yeah, I wasn't like, all right, let's do the full Monty. No, it was more yeah, no, no, not at all. It was actually meant to just show more. I suppose I did it to show that you're supposed to spend more attention to the fact that he has a hole in his leg other than he has a pee-pee.
Gotcha.
Because we all, to me, that, yeah, like sex is different. I think sex is very different. If you shoot that on a film, I think that translates very differently for people. But when there's people not doing anything sexual on the screen, but they're just doing normal things, this is not quite normal. You're dressing a gunshot wound. But like he says, we'll take a different example. Let's say I wasn't shot, but I was just in the bathroom and I opened the film in a bathroom and there's not a woman that's naked, but a man, and he's just doing his things, and he, after a while, I think you're more focusing on what he's doing. Like the shock is first there, but then, I think Michael Caine said it best, actually, now I think about it. He actually dissuaded to ever do full frontal nudity, which I wish I'd seen that interview before I'd done the scene. But lesson learned. I'd already done it, to be also truthful. I've done a lot of theater work. I actually have portrayed Alan Strang in Equus, and I've done quite a few more racier avant-garde plays with Beckett and, by Chauffeur, things like that. But so it just didn't bother me, honestly. There were a few other scenes that were in the film that were supposed to have more nudity with females and so on and so forth. But I never like to force people. Yes, they read it, on time. It's very hard, I think, to be an actor because you read a script and you have to visualize, okay, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. This is, how it's going to be. But also, I'm sure at the time they're running, well, they're going to do something to cover this, or they'll do something for this. But then when they get there, there's 6 people in the room, and it's like, right, come on, take clothes off, let's go.
Right.
It's, one, it's cold, and 2, it's like, oh, you get self-conscious, and you're thinking more about, oh, I'm naked, not I'm this person doing this right now. So if ever I think that that's jeopardizing their performance, I'll work around it, and I'll say, you know what, just we'll have a towel around you. We'll do something like that instead. Me, I don't care. I have no shame. I'm definitely, like I said, I'm Yeah, I have absolutely no shame when it comes to that. But it wasn't meant to show off. It was meant to just kind of immerse you into, oh, this is quite gritty. Oh, this is quite graphic right off the bat. And it was honestly set up saying, okay, well, this is also one of the slower parts of the film. He's already been shot, and it's almost supposed to feel like a lucid dream when he passes out in the bathtub. It's almost you're almost supposed to be going back and seeing kind of the lead up, and then after the intermission, after the whole big car fight and the gun, the gunplay when he gets shot in the leg, it comes back to when he's in the bathroom again, and it's supposed to kind of almost the film's supposed to almost catch up to itself while the audience is catching up with the filling in the blanks. That, and it's very, I thought it would be a very gripping thing to start with well, if we start from darkness and we just fade up and we just see a naked man with a hole in his leg and there's a gun there, and we don't explain anything, there's no real music or noise, it's just ambient, what I call droning noises. I love playing with boar horns and things like that. But I feel like it helps build anticipation, and you're kind of questioning, like, what am I watching? What is he going to do? Is this dirty? Is this going to be scary? Is it violent? And then it's going to slowly kind of unfold. I like taking my time with movies. I don't like to rush. I like to build my characters, build my world. And then once we hit that, if the audience is still there and they're still watching, once we've hit that midway point, that's when I'll start really hopefully pushing what everyone knows is the action or the conflict. I like to build up the people you care about first before we start introducing why we're going to knock them out, kind of a thing. At least that's just me, though. That's a personal thing.
No, and I agree with that. I think that because I'm a big guy and I've always been insecure about my body, and I actually discussed this in the previous interview, I believe, where I've now done a few films where I've just been in my boxer briefs, just kind of exposing myself, and you do get a certain amount of power out of that. There is a certain amount of confidence that you can have the body of Brad Pitt, or you can be overweight and stuff and still feel very secure about yourself, and know that once you've done that, you kind of own everything. Nobody can come to you and say something about that. And in some cases with character, like in your film, you now get a peek into that character's life, of him dragging him out of his 3-layered bed down to the floor to grab the phone, and he sleeps naked. That's what he does. And so you're getting a little piece into his life. And I think I was more surprised, just this is the first time we've actually talked, but I've seen your picture, so I knew that, oh, that's the director of the film. So I think I was a little more surprised of, oh, wow, that's the director doing this, not like some actor that he put through it, of saying, nope, you're nude. So now it's almost like, I'm the director, I wrote this, I'm naked in this. What else can be done? Because it's everybody else now should feel a little more secure. Like, well, if he tells you to do something, it's because he's going to do it too. Now there is no kind of line drawn, because you've done it. I mean, being naked is the ultimate thing that you can do on film, and or on stage, or in a painting or anything. And now everyone around you is just like, oh, okay, now what can I do? Because he's now done this. And it's like when you hear those directors on set that will get naked because somebody else is in a sex scene.
Thought of it like that.
Yeah, it's.
Oh, okay. No, I can see it like that. Okay. That's interesting. I've never thought of it like that, but that's actually a very interesting point, actually. I've shot a couple sex scenes, and those I have always found to be hilariously hard to film, because everyone laughs. Everyone gets the giggles. You could rehearse it for a month, and we've got it out, and I'll get the camera ready. The lights are perfect, and then I'll say action, and they just break, and it's done. It's like, well, we'll just wait, let him go. Just let him go. And then once they finish, usually I usually have to cut in between 50, 60 takes to get about 2.5 minutes of usable good stuff to put into a montage. If it wasn't a montage, I don't think I could probably do it. I've never found maybe it's just because of the level that I'm at, or because I imagine actually that's not true at all. No, that's not true. On the stage I have. On the stage we've done that, but not on film, not yet anyway. But that's something I find it harder to do some of the action and the violence, to tell you the truth. Like I like that's hard on the knees and on the body. And that is a solidly underappreciated and respected profession for all stunt performers who are union members, because oh my god, it breaks your body. I'm 30. I'm 31 in June. I can't do that anymore. The film I'm doing now, I do not run. I discovered that's a good thing to write when you're sitting there writing your screenplay and you're like, if I'm going to play a part, what do I not want to do? I don't want my knees to hate me by the end of shooting.
Oh yeah,
but
I definitely hear you. Yeah, I'm 53 and I'll be 54 in September, and my knees have arthritis. Cheers. So, well, thank you. Let me get this over here. There we go. You too. And so when I do write stuff for myself, take a little. There we go. I have to think about that stuff. So if I do write like a little part for myself, I'm in a chair. They go into the office and they meet Bob, the manager, and that would be me. And I'm sitting in a chair, or a car pulls up and I'll be sitting in the driver's seat where I don't have to get out. You got to think of that stuff. The older you get, the harder it is. Not all of us can be Tom Cruise and can jump out of a airplane and, land on top of a building, and be, walk away from it with just like a broken ankle or something. But I would probably splat on the ground with that. So it's which leads.
I don't know how he.
Yeah, I mean, whatever you think of the guy, whatever you think of him, I mean, he's the action guy. I mean, I give him a lot of credit for him doing those stunts, and he'll even release that footage of him messing up, of like breaking his ankle and stuff. So, yeah, I mean that gotta hurt. So
so gnarly to see. Right.
Yeah, and you can see it right there.
I'm quite a big fan of Tom Cruise, actually. Oh yeah. Oh no, it's a snap, and he get up, he takes the cable off, and he just walks away, and it's like, huh. All right.
No, you got to finish that scene. Well, so then that kind of leads us into my next two questions. Then are kind of related. So where was the film shot?
It was shot in 3 different cities. I should say a town and 2 cities. It was shot in the heart of Los Angeles, off of the Boulevard, and just off of oh goodness gracious me, off of Vine Street, near where the Capitol Records building and the Avalon nightclub used to be, or I think it still is there actually. And then another very large portion of it was shot in Ventura, California, and as well as just probably 5 miles out from Piru. And then there's a couple of shots in there. I'm surprised no one has pointed out this yet. To me, this is the greatest continuity flaw of the film. San Francisco at one point, but. I'm from the Bay Area, and I didn't even spot that.
Are you?
Yeah. Yes. No. There's the shot where TK, he's standing on with the cell phone, and behind him is an arena. There's some boats going behind him. That is right in front of Alcatraz and Pier 39.
Really? I didn't even recognize that. I figured that was some arena that was in, like San Diego or something like that. But yeah, I was raised in the Bay Area. So yeah, I love San Francisco. So that's awesome.
Oh, wonderful. Yeah, no, actually, my family all lives up in Turlock, California, and my grandparents in Fremont, California. So when I was up
Okay.
visiting them, we got shot in Frisco.
Ah.
um,
So I'm going to name things that you have in here that are in the film that I was really
mhm.
surprised to see. So I'm going to ask about,
Okay.
the location of these things, permits. How did you get them? I was very surprised with this film because you just don't see these things. One, you had like the front end of like a semi truck in one scene. You had planes and an airfield. You shot at the beach, boats, which I'm guessing is the San Francisco. Let's see, you were inside a building that had construction going on, a creek, which I guess isn't out of the ordinary, but there's a creek in there. You shot at a church, a pier. You had a BM
Yes.
bike going around, and an awesome looking tunnel at the end, and a dam. So, what? How did you get all this stuff?
So I am very fortunate to have very loving, wonderful, endearing friends who all thought that this was a very cool idea and all wanted to help. And they did. And whether they were in the film or holding a microphone or a camera, a lot of them were actually for locations. And some of them, I will admit, no, I had absolutely no money for permits. I didn't know what a permit was until I had been. Uh, yeah, no, I absolutely did not. And I didn't. A couple of the scenes that you're watching, it was sheer dumb luck. So I will say that it was sheer dumb luck, or I knew someone who knew someone who knew someone. The airfield, so I worked at a slaughterhouse while I was finishing the final 6 months of production for this film, and I was working at the slaughterhouse from 8 to 1, 8 to 2, and then I'd edit the rest of the afternoon and evening.
Did you
And
say
it was
slaughterhouse?
a good deal. Yes,
You
I
worked at a
actually I do butcher.
slaughterhouse. Oh wow.
I
Okay.
yes, I have a back. I so I followed advice from a great filmmaker, Christopher McQuarrie, who now directs the Mission Impossible films,
That's
talking
right.
about
Yeah,
Mr.
yeah. Usual
Cruise.
Suspects. He wrote a
Um,
bunch of good stuff. Yeah.
oh, fantastic. Well, he's talking about Usual Suspects. It was funny. He posted a, I'll say it was a nice love letter to just either fans or filmmakers or just people just who kept, asking, how did you do this? How did you do that? And he said it very truthfully and very plainly. He said, after Usual Suspects, he couldn't get any work. He just won an Oscar. When you win an Oscar, everyone assumes you're too expensive, or you made too this, too that. And for whatever reason, he was having a hard time. And he says in this memoir, you should have multiple baskets. Is all, you should have two or three things if you can and when you can. When you can let go of just having the one, you're good to go. So I took that, and he said he did delivery driving, things like that. Well, I funny enough, as I was making films, I learned how to be a butcher. So actually, I do meat cutting. I've broken down, beef. Like I said, I worked in a slaughterhouse. I've worked in, yeah, that not my. I love animals, so that only happened for about just to finish my movie, and I realized there's, that still wasn't worth it. But it helped me finish my film. And while I was at this slaughterhouse, right behind us was the Simi Valley Airport, which I realized had no security. I shouldn't be saying this. It didn't have a lot of security. Didn't have a lot of people, as long as you weren't stealing or trying to take one of the planes or, defacing. And we just wanted to walk near the planes and just make it look like we're talking to a pilot, just simple things. So we looked at each other and we're like, well, there's people going out in the field taking pictures, like tourists. So I'll just set my little tiny camcorder camera here and zoom, and then you walk there. And then while we were doing this, we were in the cafe area. There was a little cafe in this airport, and I'd order coffee, and she'd bring the coffee, and then I'd remove the napkins from the camera, and then zoom, move it back over here, And then we would do that, and then I'd leave a very nice tip when we left, just in case I got someone in trouble. But we were very discreet. I think that was the thing. We were very discreet. I didn't come in with a bunch of boom mics. I didn't come in with like 8 or 9 or 10 people. Sometimes that was shot with me and the other actor, and we balanced it between things and made sure that the angle was right. And we would just act as if we were talking, and we hoped to God that the mic on the camera picked it up. And it was sheer dumb luck. The underground lair, or the tunnels, as you say, that is real. That is one of the most crazy things about Ventura. It goes all the way. It leads into catacombs. All that graffiti was really there. That was not put in for the film. That is just, and the deeper you went, the weirder the graffiti got. And we went very deep. We're like miles into these things. And with those flares, when we're coughing, that's not acting. We're wounded. No, that was smoke inhalation. So we suffered for our art. but we got the shots. And we actually went, those drain pipes, those were real drain pipes that were connected in there. And funny enough, the dam, those are 2 different areas. That's different. It doesn't actually lead out into that. That's the movie magic, and Kyle going, well, it worked for North by Northwest, so if I do it like this, it should look like that. And that's 100% what happened. I took a Hitchcock and I was like, well, so it'll work. And then it did. And I was like, okay, cool. But it was actually, I believe that dam is going to be torn down soon. Yes, it's very unfortunate. I hope it doesn't. There were plans to remove it, and they shouldn't. It's a wonderful place. It's dangerous. What you see is what you get. There are real, like it looks like something out of Goldeneye that's been, rusted for years. That's actually what made me go, ooh, yes, right, we'll shoot there.
Yeah, it's very cool.
But it's really wonderful location. People like to dive off where you could actually, I don't know if you caught that or not, but at the very end of the film, when I'm doing my oh, woe is me, and the girl has been shot in the background, you can see these little skinny dippers going ooh into the water.
Oh no, I didn't.
Going, yeah. I don't think people have ever noticed that, but I'll let that slip. Yeah, if you look at the very foreground, you can see these little skinny dippers jumping into the into the water.
That's funny.
Which actually I didn't. Yeah. So again, sheer dumb luck, and we just editing and cutting it in the right moments at the right time, and making sure that it just looked consistent. And if you look and spot it, there's a few where that you can catch it, that they're not quite the same. But that was behind near Ojai. It was off of the 33. I forget what that dam is called. I feel terrible for saying that, but it is a wonderful place. It's just along with 33 off of Ojai. I want to say it's near Tehachapi, but I might be wrong. I might be wrong on that. But yeah, that was another wonderful location I happened upon because my good friend Ty, he was actually my stunt driver. He did the stunt coordinations for all the car segments and things. He's a professional. He actually did animal wrangling and professional driving for the films. He actually got me my first job as a coffee guy on the backlot of Paramount. And and actually there's another big professional in my film. I believe he's retired now, but I'll give a nod to him because I owe a lot to him. And his name is Mike Flanagan. And he goes by Mike California, and he is one of the best key grips and supervisors I've ever met. He's also a steady cam puller and operator. He worked on How to Get Away with Murder, Blade. He actually allowed me to come and watch him work on the backlot of Gower Studios down off of the boulevard on Sunset, and one of the best experiences I've ever seen, actually. And that's what opened my eyes a lot, was actually working on the backlots of these big studios and realizing while I was doing all these other odd jobs I'd watch, and I'd realize this is the same shit that I do outside. I just don't have as much money. Like,
Right.
we're going through the same problems. We're going through the same like waitings and whys and hooly be waddies, but it's just bigger money. So that's when I started to realize, well, okay, so it can be done. And he actually gave me a big magic goodie box off of the back of his grip truck that fell off, and he showed me
Fell
what a
off.
yeah, I didn't
I'm
know it
Italian.
fell
I know.
off.
I know what
I,
fell off means. Yeah.
yeah, so, we found it. It was some good stuff. It's
What are you gonna do?
the property of, well, what's, yeah, we just etched off the numbers.
Yeah.
No. But no, he gave us our first goodie box, and he showed me what a diffuser could do, what a piece of cardboard could do. I didn't have any lights for that movie at all. It was all shot with natural lighting, actually. Or I took a piece of colored gel that he gave me, and I just put it over the light that we were shooting on and hoped that it would be blue. Or I really messed with the color temperature on the camera, and I just saw what I could come up with. But yeah, no, those two gentlemen are both the cameos in my film. The first one, Mike Flanagan, I won't say where he is, but he plays a small cameo, and as does Ty. Ty is actually the driver in that scene, who also is in the shootout, who takes out the other two goons after I get shot in the leg. Also a huge nod to him, because he showed me and gave me most of those locations, as well as most of the segments in LA. And the other person would be Jared Buxton, who plays the ship captain and transporter for TK. And he is a real ship captain. That was his real boat. Actually, that I worked on as a, yeah, I'm a man of many trades. I worked on his boat
Sounds
as
like
a bilge. I really wanted to make this movie. So so he actually got me all the segments that we shot in what I call all the sequences that you see that will look like they're shot in the hood. That really was we shot that at night and under the close of darkness. I had a blanket over me, and I would just kind of shoot like this, and he would drive down through the streets, and what we saw is what we got. And I wanted that. I wanted it to be as real as I could and not make it look fake. So I figured, well, it's like a documentary. We'll mix it in. So I owe a lot to Mr. Jared Buxton as well. And like I said, his cameos, he's the ship's captain.
Well, then that kind of brings us to my next one. Then, talking about like the cars and the stunts and the shootout, is you have two big shootouts in this. One of them, yeah, I was like, say like, how did he do this? So you have one that starts off kind of in the woods. It goes to the freeway, which is when my mouth went, and then you're back in the woods again. And then you have the one out in the desert with that kind of bridge, that big metal bridge thing that's there. But the first shootout, I get shooting in the woods, right? Nobody's really going to see you. You could do what you want. You're on the freeway aiming guns out the window in somewhere in Los Angeles. I mean, did you guys just film it? Did you let anybody know this was going on? I mean, if a cop saw you or somebody, this isn't that long ago, so people have cell phones. They could say, there's two cars shooting at each other. Explain those. Yep.
So no, we did not have permission. How I did that, and I'd actually want to say, before I say this sounds cool and everything. This does sound cool, but I also want to be aware that there are if there are younger filmmakers out there who I want to stress this. What the things that I did personally were very dangerous. I knew that it was a risk doing it. I made sure that it was me doing it, not my crew members. If my crew member was near any risk, I made sure that I would be able to put myself in that stead without harming anyone. But even then, it's a gamble, because what happens if we had lost control of the car? There's all kinds of things that could have happened. But that's where I say I laid my trust in Ty, who I knew was a professional stunt driver. He had actually done test after test after test after test, and he ran. It was weeks in planning. We shot it 3 times. We knew we had probably one. That is actually one whole take with 4 different cameras rolling.
Oh wow.
And we had an entrance Yeah, I knew we weren't going to push that too much because like you said, there's public safety as well. It was timing. It took a long time. We didn't shoot it in 5 minutes. It took about 6 hours to get 3 or 4 takes, because what we would do is, before we'd even leave the house, I would have graphs. I'd have these large drawn out graphs showing the freeway, and it would be like, okay, this box number 1 is car number 1, this box number 2 is car number 2. We had a total of 3 cars, I think. We had the Mustang, the Saturn, and there was another one. I think it was a Nissan or something like that. And so how I blocked it, and I actually I was inspired by another independent film, but this was a film that had millions of dollars behind them, and they still managed to pull it off, but you could see that it was professionally done. And even then, I just want to stress that it's risky. So just, if you're going to do things like that, just be aware that it's, you're taking a risk. No ifs, ands, or buts. Like, things happen, and they can happen. And we were lucky it didn't. And we were very careful not to do that. We had emergency plans. We had different things like that. But again, I just want to stress, even if we have all these plans, things can happen. So please be careful on any of your guys' future endeavors, whoever's listening. But how it would be is we would have a starting ramp. We would have an entranceway. We would get onto the freeway. All 3 or 4 cars would get on. Tied in the Mustang would be the lead car. I would be in that lead car with everyone on walkie or on a speakerphone system in my earpiece. And I would direct them from the car. I'd say, okay, car number 1, everyone get close. We would almost think of it like Star Wars. We'd form a tight unit on the freeway, and we would wait. We would try to put enough distance between traffic that's behind us and traffic that's ahead of us, so we had a safe pocket in case something did happen, or if a car spun out of control, or if we lost control, there would be enough time for the people behind us to react, and we would be further enough away that we wouldn't harm anyone in front of us. That was the idea. It wasn't foolproof. So once we got on the freeway, I would say, okay, car number 1, you'll make into your right. That car would then drive up, speed up. They go bang, 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 bang. And then I would return fire, bang, bang, bang. They had a cue, because then Ty would snap his fingers while he's driving. One of the drivers would look like he got hit, and he would look like the car is going off to the side, but really he's pulling over to the emergency lane and slowing down. The car is just going so fast that it looks like he's going out of frame. So it's all illusion. It's how you frame it, and how you're but we did not, I will say this though, we did not speed up any of that footage. That is shot at 24 frames per second. We were going very fast, probably a little too fast on some of the segments. But again, I can't say I'm disappointed, because I'm still happy with how it looks at the end of it.
Yeah, it looks great.
But yeah, so we had, and then we would pull off once both cars had their bang, 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 pull off. We then would change, and we would all get off together and get onto a different highway or a different road. And we would always be getting off on intersections where there's 4 different directions, just in case. I shouldn't say this either, but we also had a couple scanners, so I could hear actually if there was a call in for crazy people shooting on the freeway with guns, and then we would
yeah,
go home.
Abort!
Everyone meet up at Cold Stone. Yeah, everyone. Yeah. That, or I'd be that crazy guy who's just stay on target. No, but yeah, that was how we pulled that off, and that was also due to my brilliant cinematographer, Mr. Pat Mallory. He shot he had a camera set up in car B. I had a camera set up in car A, and we also had a third camera in car C, but each would have a different, one would be a wide, one would be a medium, one would be a close-up. So that way, after 1, 2, 3, we've hopefully by then shot it in 9 different angles. If we haven't got it in 9 different takes and different angles, then we don't know what we're doing, and we shouldn't be doing this. So we got it in, I think it was 6. I think we didn't need to do it the third time, so we just moved on, went further up, probably about 20 miles or so into Ojai. A lot of it was shot in Ojai. All that chase scene in the canyon and in the gorge and the shootout, that was all shot just outside of Ojai, and goodness gracious, town where Johnny Cash was born. Warm Springs, not Warm Springs. That's a city. I forget, Spring something. It's just before Ojai, but we shot everything of that segment out there. And there's no one out there. You saw there was deer on the road, so we were left at peace for those segments.
Well, yeah, that I probably figured maybe it was like a stolen shot, or just like, just like, oh crap, there's deer, get the camera, and you got the deer, that type of thing.
That's that's what it was.
Get those deer. So it's because that's production value. That's free production value right there. So you got some deer there. So it's yeah, I mean, that was. Now, what about the that kind of like a bridge thing out in the desert? What was that like?
So that I had more control over that. That was a construction site that was, I believe they were turning that whole area into homes. But it was just outside of Piru, and they hadn't been doing construction for months. It had been raining and raining and raining. It was getting hot. I waited a month or two, kept watching it. We would just pass by it every day, and I'd watch it. No activity, no movement. So I was like, okay, we're gonna shoot here. So we go out there, and I'm looking at it, and I'm like, okay, so we'll block this here, we'll block this here. And that was actually one of my favorite shoots, because we probably shot for 6-7 hours that day, because we would have to load all the squibs, get all the things ready, get everyone in different, that was all timing. And it was actually shot over a course of, I think, 2 or 3 different days. There was just so much, and there's a lot, actually, like I said, that in the version you saw, it was probably cut down quite a bit, but it is very secluded, and there was not a lot of noise out there, so it was actually perfect for what we were trying to go for, kind of that final meet up between the two rivals and all that, that big one last big hurrah kind of a thing. But yeah, that's what that was all about. And it also cut well, I thought, for because we wanted to actually go up into the hills. There's a lot of wonderful canyons and hills up in Ventura, and what we wanted the car chase to actually start out, in a almost in the middle of nowhere kind of a thing, and then make its way back up into the hills, and then back down into the city kind of a thing. And then of course we go underground or underneath the city, which is a whole nother layer you wouldn't expect to see with such a beautiful backdrop kind of a thing. So that was a symbolic choice. That was actually to prove and show you what looks beautiful on top and so gorgeous in front of you can be very corrupt and very dirty and very polluted, but so that's what that was. That, and it looked gorgeous during magic hour, and I was like, well, I've never shot during magic hour, so this is the time we're going to do it. And I can see why people like doing it. It gives off wonderful, beautiful images.
Oh, it does. Yeah.
Those were some of my favorite. But yeah, and the dirt bike segment, that was by accident. That young man was just out there having a good time with his dirt bike, saw what we were doing, was like, can I be in your movie? And I was like, can I have your dirt bike? And we came to an agreement, and we strapped an AK on his back and said, right, you're going to go that way. And at the end of the day, yeah, that's how that came to be. He was a nice little 15-year-old who was just trying to have a nice Sunday afternoon, and some quirky guys were shooting a weird movie.
And now he's in it.
And now he's in
it. At times those work the best, because I did a short found footage film called Cannibal, and we shot it out here in this kind of like this little ravine out here in Vegas, and thinking, okay, there's going to be no noise out here or whatever. Well, we just happened to go on a day that people are target shooting not too far away, and you could hear them shooting. And so I'm like, damn,
right.
Great. That's going to mess up my sound. And I thought, well, no, wait a minute. And because it's found footage, the actress has the camera aimed at her, and she's kind of walking down this ravine and eventually meets, hence the title, of Cannibal. But we said, well, why don't we just use that? Why don't we actually, whenever you hear a gunshot, go, oh, gunshot. Oh God, where are these people? Why are they coming after me? Where are these gunshots coming from? Well, it is the desert. Maybe they're shooting at cans or something. So in some cases, what's around you can actually work to your advantage. And for me, it was gunshots, and for you, it was a kid on a dirt bike.
Yeah, yeah, and I think you're right. I think when those things happen, it honestly, it free production value is free production value. You can't say no. And if
Mm-mm.
someone is generally showing an interest, I've never been one to turn someone away and say, no, 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 I'm sorry. I got no use for you. Even if they can't be
Right.
on the screen, I'll say, yeah, sure. You know what? You can go pick up that and bring it to that sound guy. Like, do there's always something that needs to be done that somebody's not doing. So if anyone's actually, whoever's ever interested and is like, hey, shows an interest, I always try to, include them because, how often do you get I'm biased to speak because I love what I love doing it. But I mean, usually for the Joe Blow, they don't usually get to do things like that, or they don't. Um, it's not their main interest to do so. So it might be a new, fresh, fun thing to do for that day. Yeah, is another way to look at it as well.
Well, yeah, and now maybe they have an interest in film in some sort of way. It's
Yeah,
uh,
which
when I was doing a Meat Hook Massacre 4 in Pahrump, we had pizza delivered, and the guy who delivered the pizza, he showed up on, I'll just make up a day, but like on a Tuesday. He then showed up on a Wednesday, and he kept being more and more interested. Like, well, you guys are making a movie. What are you doing? He ended up being our PA, and he ended up doing sound when our sound guy couldn't be there. And he was on this. We were shooting for 4 days, and he shot with us for 2 of those 4 days. So the pizza delivery boy ended up
oh
being part of the
wow,
crew. We're friends on Facebook. He's a really nice guy, and it's just like, and now maybe he wants to make film. You never know. So give the pizza delivery guy a chance. You never know what might come from that. So, and he was useful. He helped us out a lot, and we appreciated it.
no, see that you've made a new friend too, which is always
Yeah.
I love to meet and collaborate with people with similar interests as well. So that's always a pleasure as well.
Yeah, and it's always helpful. So never turn anybody down. If somebody tries to contact you on Facebook, unless they
No,
come off really creepy or something like that.
yeah,
But
and
if
you can
somebody's,
usually tell.
yeah, I mean, it's, I've had a fair amount of people say, hey, if you need a poster, if you need music, oh, hey, I'm an actor or an actress. I always try to respond, and sometimes they live too far away, or sometimes they're
Yeah.
local. But yeah, I wouldn't give. You should always give people a chance, or at least just hear them out. Because maybe you'll work well with them. So you never know.
Right.
And it's
No,
so
I agree with that.
yeah. So a couple other things on here would be um, I noticed one thing with your character. So in the film, I believe you say, "I'm not a hitman," but yet he is killing people. But his necklace is the peace sign. So is that intentional or
Hmm.
not intentional?
No, that's intentional.
Okay.
Yeah, that's 100% intentional. TK is a very it's one of my favorite characters I've actually gotten to play. Um, Other than Charlie in children's games, because TK is that is true. He's not supposed to be a hitman. All the things that he does in this film, like killing people and things, that's not supposed to be the norm for him. He really is just a mover. He's just supposed to move product and from one place to another. He doesn't. He's not really a money guy. He's not a he doesn't deal with that stuff. He really is supposed to be a professional smuggler in a sense. Um, but when he keeps getting thrown into these very difficult situations by this well, I won't call him a mentor, but his boss's idiotic, stupid nephew, and just makes it just puts him in these things. And the TK is a survivalist. Yeah, he's a survivalist, but he's not supposed to be a bad person. Like he does what he does because he's good at it, and he's not out to really hurt people, but he's also not gonna he has to do what he has to do, otherwise he's gonna be put in a situation, kind of a thing. So it's kind of a kill or be killed sort of a vibe. That, or if he looks, the way I took it was knows how to kill people. He's definitely killed people before. He's very good at killing people. I don't think he likes to kill people. And that scene where he's like suffocating the guy, I forget his Cruz. He's in my head, that I think was the start of him starting to not crack, but just lose. He starts getting angry or losing his temper more. And as the film progresses and progresses, he just kind of starts to lose that calmness. Because in the first 30, 40 minutes, he's a very calm, very collected, very quiet kind of guy. He has solid plans. He knows, he tells him no, tells him yes. Like he's supposed to be very professional, and very ambiguous. You're not supposed to know too much about him at all, actually. But yeah, but for me, I always felt that TK was just put in very very uncomfortable situations that he himself has a hard time dealing with. And as he is forced to deal with them, he gets progressively more and more violent and just impatient. So I would say he's almost an implosive character where he holds it in, he holds it in, he holds it in, and then he just kind of snaps and loses it, and then he'll kind of regain. But that was how I was trying to play it. I don't know if that's how it came off. But yeah, he's definitely he goes through a lot of definitely self-doubt and self questioning scenarios throughout the film, where he's not sure if he's a very suicidal character, actually, is the way I've always looked at it. TK is not happy at all with his life. He doesn't like what he does. He's just good at it. It's what makes him it's what makes his living. It's what makes his life as comfortable as it is, but it doesn't mean he's necessarily happy with it. And I think at the end, that's kind of the whole point. I truly do think he wanted and wants to die. I think what happens at the end, he does not intend. I think that actually is meant to be a genuine shock and surprise, because he himself might not be able to do it, but by putting someone else in the same position he's been put in, it was so easy for him to do it. Maybe this cop can do the same thing. So I think that was his intention at the end, and it kind of backfired on him, and he was left to kind of dwell on that too. So he's a very sad character, actually. He's not he doesn't win or overcome anything. He's kind of just left with the same problems. Nothing's ever resolved with him. Just that situation is resolved, but now he finds himself in another, because, well, not to spoil, but what happens at the end, you can imagine that's a lot of attention. So it's just, where's he going to go from there, kind of a thing. But yeah, so that was my original take on TK. Very much, he wants to be a peaceful, quiet hermit, but people just won't leave him alone.
Well, and he says that to her. He says, either shoot me or just leave me alone. And he does give that surprised look, when he shoots. And to me, it almost kind of seemed like a almost habit. It's just something that he does. And maybe he was thinking that she would shoot first, so before he could pull the trigger. So yeah, because now on top of that, there's the boyfriend of the cop who gets killed. And so now there's two cops. So yeah, what is he going to do? And because he is an interesting character, because then I found the exact opposite of him is the nephew, of Charlie, who is a little more flamboyant, a little more annoying. He is one of these guys that you just want to punch in the face. But if you do, even though he is annoying, the boss may have you killed, or break a finger or something like that. So what do you do? So yeah, you definitely had a wide range of characters that were, like I instantly know who the nephew is, just from us talking right now, because he stands out. And to me, he was the opposite of TK. Would you say would that be right?
Oh yeah. Well, see, TK in that scene between, that's actually a good point, because in that scene between the nephew and TK, when they're at the dinner table, TK says he doesn't care about he didn't care about power, doesn't care about this. He literally is just he's just making, it's a living to him. But Rothschild takes it so personally, and it's his fault, and it's this fault, and he's blaming this and he's blaming that. And all TK is trying to get him to understand is it doesn't matter who to blame. Like you still have to face up for what you do. Like TK has no problem taking responsibility for his actions, or even being, truthful about them. But Rothschild feels like he was robbed of not power, but of opportunities, I guess.
Okay, yeah, opportunities, position, yeah.
Yeah, it just seems like TK overshines him. So I think there's a jealousy thing there as well. Because honestly, the relationship that he has with TK is kind of a weird, odd, forced uncle, even though TK really doesn't like him at all. I feel there's like a forced, kind of weird nephew or son relationship between them. Excuse you.
I have two that wander around too.
Yeah. Hi.
Hi there.
Yeah, go on, Bubba.
I've had both of my cats running around my feet. Hello there.
He's like, oh, why for your attention on this weird little device for so long?
Love me.
I'm sorry, Bubba. But
no. I normally tell people if there's a car alarm or a cat or a dog, just go along with it. It's fine, because I got my two cats who hop up on the table, and you're constantly seeing me jiggle like this, and that normally means the cat's on the table. So. Well, the thing that I saw with Rothschild is that it's even worse with TK because he doesn't care. If he cared, then it would just kind of be like, like they can go off of one another with like, haha, sucker, I got, I'm where you want to be. But TK doesn't even care. And to me, that makes people more angry. If you get the position, if they get the position that you want and they don't even give a crap,
right,
that makes you even more angry and annoyed. And so I kind of saw that as a little bit of a kind of a dynamic of, why does he have this position when he doesn't even care? Why can't I have it? What does my uncle see in him that he doesn't see in me when I could do that thing? And it's funny is when Rothschild is complaining in the car to the guy next to him, the guy next to him is like, it's okay. I'm just like, well, maybe if you weren't such a little bitch, he might actually respect you a little bit more. Stop whining and crying about it and do something. You don't see TK doing that. He's just doing his job and not caring. So it was just funny to me. And now one character, well, actually, because we're talking about TK and stuff and Charlie, there's one scene with TK and Charlie that I wonder. And it's when they're on the pier, and I don't want to give totally away what it is, but yes. It's when they're kind of confronting one another. If you removed that scene,
right,
would their dynamic still be the same?
Oh, oh no, actually, I don't. I'm not sure on that one. I would have to actually probably say I don't think so, because that was the first scene we actually shot. I wanted to make sure that was absolutely the first thing we captured on camera, because I knew that was that's one of the most important scenes that defines their relationship. But that between that scene and the scene in the car after the conflict with Rothschild, I think those are the two key scenes between Charlie and TK that kind of sum up their relationship. That and the first scene where he's giving him his job, and you're kind of seeing the basic lingo between the two of them. But I don't. Yeah, that scene is very, because it's almost like it shows that Charlie invades his personal space even against TK's wishes. Like it is a real, like the way I wrote it was Charlie is just a lonely old codger. He's an old second-rate criminal. He's like a Fagin. He's like a modern day Fagin. He has all these young kids that he doesn't have to pay as much to do all his little drug runs and all these little things, but which I guess would probably make TK the Artful Dodger. Actually, now that I'm thinking about it, but in that, yeah, but in that idea, I think Charlie's just very lonely and but in different ways. Like he's suicidal, but he's suicidal for different reasons. Like you just don't know where to go. So he I think is he knows his time is up, and he knows that he doesn't have anything really to leave behind, and what he has to leave behind is to something he doesn't really like, and the person that he likes and that who works for him the hardest really can't stand him and wants nothing really to do with him personally. So the more I think Charlie pushes on his personal life, I think it makes their dynamic just a little more. I think as it gets to that end, that final scene between the two of them, I think it means a little more before TK decides to leave and abandon the car, because he has to. It's kind of like that kid who has everything that he really wants or needs. He has everything that he's looking for, but he doesn't really realize he has it. And then once it's actually taken from him right in front of him, he realizes, oh, now I really don't have anything. And I did kind of have something, because even though it was a forced relationship, Charlie did genuinely care about TK. And I don't think TK feels in that film that he has anyone that does care about him except his mom, who, you know, is a terminal character. So right off the bat, she's kind of gonna kick it,
yeah,
and leave him alone. So a lot of it is when I wrote the film, I wrote it to show people there's no redeeming characters in the movie. There's no real, except for maybe Creasy, the cop, but even she has some serious personal issues, and she's quite violent and very out to make a name for herself. So everyone isn't really just at all. But they're still people. I wanted to get across that they're still people. They're not good people. They're bad people. They're people you wouldn't associate with. But just because you don't think about them or wouldn't want to think about them, or, that's not something you ever try to concern with in life, if you see it in the film and it just kind of drops you into this day in the life for just a few hours, and it just kind of shows you how these people who aren't necessarily even big mobsters, they're just low level underground criminal, just nothings really, and they want to know, what do they amount to? Are they worth anything? Is it worth living? Should I, is it real? What am I meant for? Like, what is my purpose? Am I living my purpose? Like, that's why a lot of the conversations between the small side characters are almost they're meant to be very philosophical and self-questioning, because it's supposed to show that even people who are pictured and glorified to have power or to be strong, even if they're villains and things like that. I mean, even they, I'm sure, have normal days where, basic emotional conflicts will kind of hit you. I mean, some of these are still, one of my favorite scenes in a movie recently was in Sicario at the very end.
Oh, I love both of those. Yeah, I own those. Yeah, those are great films.
Okay, so
yeah.
So the very end, when Benicio goes to the dinner table and his whole family is sitting there, that is one of the most, because you already know what's going to happen, and it's still one of the more just haunting and intense segments, because it's not about what's going to happen or what am I going to see. It's when is it going to happen, and it shows that even a bad guy or a villain of that caliber, of that nature, someone you have the army and all these people hunting for, even they have times where they sit down and eat dinner with their families.
Right, that's true.
So that was kind of You know, they're people. They're painted as monsters, but they are still human beings, and that's why I wrote it the way I did. It wasn't to glorify crime; it was just to take a look at it a little differently than how we're used to receiving. Again, something that Kubrick, actually Spielberg said it about Kubrick, and he said he told stories sometimes differently the way that we are used to receiving stories. So I thought I wanted to try and experiment with that, and I wanted to tell a story a little differently, as opposed to you're rooting for the hero, you're rooting for the hero. You're not really rooting for a hero, I don't think. And if you are rooting for somebody, at the end of the movie, you have your own little bit of philosophy or self wonder to think about. Because if you're depending on who you're rooting for, like I said, all of them are kind of bad people. So like it makes you kind of start to like, well, why did I side with this person over this person or this person or this person? They were all bad, but I felt more attached to this person. So it's just an interesting concept. A self experiment. I wanted to see if it would work. I don't know if it did, but it was meant to be deeper than I think as to what it is in the um, final product. Um, but yeah, those that is that was why I wrote it. I wanted to do a character study with all villains, but show them maybe not being all bad in a weird way,
Right.
or they struggle with basic human things, is what I should say. They are bad. But yeah, that was the concept as to why I went that way. Excuse me.
Yeah, and I think that it worked. And you actually brought up a couple subplots. So you brought up like TK's mother, which you never show. You never show her, which I'm actually happy you did, because I really didn't, or that you didn't show her, because I was happy not to have the melodrama. So it was nice just to hear about it. I thought that was refreshing. Of course, the female cop, and then you also had the druggy guy running around, and who kind of screws everything up. It was messed up to begin with,
Yes.
but he's that, and I kept saying once he had the money in his hand, I'm like, he's a druggie. I know he's not going to do it, but the right thing to do would be to go back to the house and say, this is not mine, but he's a druggie. So what is he going to do? He's going to take it. And that kind of, everything goes downhill from there. But you do have other subplots in here, and it's just not mob people. It's the female cop, and then the mother and the druggie. So what tell us about those people?
Well, now the druggie, his name actually in the film, his name is Luke, and he's the only biblically named character in the film. And Luke is the one, as you said, who brings about hell and spirals everybody into that oblivion of oh shit, by his, and that is the saddest part of the film for me. And actually I cried when I first pieced that bit together, and I don't do that with my films. I usually don't. I'm just okay, hopefully that makes them cry. That scene still gives me goosebumps, and he shot that by himself. I was not
Oh,
there. I could not get him back. His name, yeah, he's a great actor. He does not act professionally. I wish he did. He is actually an amazing. I believe you call it a paleontologist. His name is Shane Davis. He's one of my best friends. He's going to be one of my groomsmen to my wedding, and I've known him for well over 15 years of my life. And he's been in all three of my films, even in small cameos and things. But this was a big part I did want him to play, because I knew he could do it, and he blew me away. But that scene where he gets the bag and he sits down in the alleyway, and all those beautiful little golden leaves are coming off of the trees, and he pulls out the bag, and at first he's so happy and he's just can't believe it, and then he just kind of stops and he just looks at it, and you see this dude's happiness kind of drain and turn into remorse. And then just like you can see this guy kind of just letting go, and he already knows what he's going to do, but he also knows, look at how much he's holding in his hand. He's gonna die. He's he's not gonna sell that. He's gonna do it all, and he's gonna die. So he knows he's gonna die. So he takes that bag and he just walks off, probably just to have another person with a needle in his arm that you never hear from again. Which I'm very sad to say. I've had a few acquaintances that I've known who have gone that path, and that's where I based the character off of. It's not a it's very very nasty nasty substance, but that scene is one of the more stronger scenes, and his character his storyline, I believe, was the most intact from the original script. A lot of it I had to cut and mesh and take other storylines and put other characters here and, you know, mish them together. But that storyline of Luke stayed intact throughout the whole thing, which is why I think it plays so not just so well, but it's very powerful because he shot all of that in 3 or 4 days. I put that poor man through hell, and it was not a fun visit or experience. Yeah, you know, imagine your best mate coming to see you. I haven't seen you in a while. It's like, hey, you're gonna be a heroin junkie for the next 4 days. I don't want you to laugh. I don't want you to sleep. I want you to watch every depressing film I have, and I want you to just. And he did. He did it, and that was what I got. And if you're listening, Shane, I love you for it because you're amazing in that. He actually got a nomination at the top indie film awards, or I believe it was a mention for his performance with the ensemble cast. So
nice.
I was blown away with that. Yeah, he really punched the metal gate on the side where he's knocking it. It's commitment, man. I don't know. After the first one, I was sitting there going, dot, 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 dot. I'm just like, ow, 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 ow. Ice, medic.
We need ice fast. Well, and it's interesting with him is because,
but
you know, you brought up that, you know, he's going to die from doing these drugs. Well, let's just say he ended up like he wanted money and he was going to sell the drugs. He'd die anyways. Because eventually somebody would find out where the drugs came from and they would send men after him. So it's like, no matter what this guy does, unless he returns the money, which then he may die anyways, because then the girl may say, oh, by the way, this guy came by who I accidentally gave the money to. He returned it, but now he knows what we're doing. It's like, no matter what, he was going to die. From the second he grabbed that bag, he's dead. I mean, it just doesn't matter. So it is sad. It is, because no matter, you know, at least that's kind of how I saw it, you know.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think he's the most tragic character because he truly is just addicted. Like he physically can't help himself. He has a problem. And most of that's the other thing too. I've noticed because what I've noticed is people either really enjoy the film or they absolutely detest it. And my man. I know. But yeah, they either detest the film or they love the film, and which I like either way. But what I've noticed is it how do I say it I forgot where I was going with that. It's almost but it's almost like the none of the plots really get resolved. Everyone, you see all these people struggling with all these different events and all these different what do you call it, obstacles and things like that, and some of them are overcome, and then there's just presents another one and another one, and really deep down that's supposed to show you that crime doesn't pay. You keep going the right ways down. If you want to live this kind of life, your life is, it's always going to be hard. And I think that's one of the things TK is also, we don't eat paper. Is one of the things he's saying is hard is that he has this thing where he tries to eat paper, and
my cat does the same thing.
He's very jealous.
Yeah, my cat likes to eat paper too. I don't get it. It's just what they do, I guess.
But yeah, it's they for the most part though, the major plots they don't get resolved really, and it's not supposed to. You're not supposed to really know what TK does next. I don't think. I think you kind of are just dropped in like you say, the first shot you see is a man shot in a leg, nude in a bathroom, and then it drops you into this beautiful beach town, and then it cuts into like this ugly beat down villa where this dude is just kind of hanging, literally, and just, you know, kind of free living, but then he's doing all these drug things. So it's supposed to just drop you in, and then when it's over, it just drops you back out, because you're not, it's always going to continue. It never stops, I guess, was the message I was trying to get at. Even if I made another 6-hour mini series, it's just going to keep going. It just keeps going. It's the same thing. It's always one person fucking, excuse my French, messing the other person, or you know, trying to double cross the other individual, or you know, themselves, whatever it may be. It's never ending. It's that, what's that called, the Orin. It's a true version of Orin, where the snake is just constantly eating itself. But yeah, that's that's something I've learned. A lot of people want that resolve with the hero, and they just don't get that hero.
No, they
Get
don't.
an anti-hero, but not a hero.
I'm not even sure. Is he really an anti-hero? I mean, or is he just kind of just
he's
a?
Not a.
He's not really
He's just
any
a
of
guy.
that stuff. Just it's one of those. Yeah, he's not really a hero. He's not an anti-hero. He's not a bad guy per se. I mean, he's not like killing a child or anything, or raping women. I mean, he's doing what he's paid to do. So, and he's good at it. So, and you have just enough people to make a sequel if you wanted to. So, because you didn't kill off everybody. Because the second one, I would imagine, would be cops coming after him for you know, 2 cops being dead. That would almost kind of be like a John Wick 2, where he's now just on the run, and you know, or something. It's just yeah, because that's where it would have to go. Is they would just be after him.
Mm-hmm. Well, that originally everyone tried to convince me to turn this into a mini series, and I fought tooth and nail against it. But actually, because of how much I cut out of the script, the original script, when I read it, they're completely different. They're completely different things. The characters are all, you know, there are characters that are in it that are in the other one. So you could almost do it the way Traffic did. When Traffic came out, the USA did a mini series that was quite different, but it did its own thing. And if anyone, I say, you could take the original script and you could probably turn it into an 8-part miniseries, and it would be vastly different. And it does kind of explain and show a little more. But honestly, you could also cut. You could take the original script, take certain things out, and then still shoot it that, and it could be a sequel. I guess is the crazy thing on how dense it was. It was ridiculous. I would walk around with a giant 3-ring binder, and everyone at my theater, whenever I was at the podium ripping tickets, I'd be, you know, making notes, and people would ask, "Oh, what's that?" I say, "Oh, it's my epic." And they go, "Oh."
It's definitely epic.
So it's get down. There you go. Yeah, well, thank you. I hope that's all I really wanted to. Yeah, that was the goal, and if I definitely did that, then I am very happy, because that was honestly I wanted to knock that one off the list, because every time I make a film, I try to make something completely different. I don't want to be a director that makes the same thing all the time, or the same genre, or the same style. I want to do different techniques that just, I don't know. It's, for example, that one we shot all, you know, it was very guerrilla, very, very guerrilla. The film I just came off of, the KP, that was very more, I would say almost, it felt like a studio film. It was a large crew, large set, a lot of collaboration, you know, things like that. And that was a wonderful experience as well. And then the film I'm working on now, that KP is a horror film, so you can imagine Rightways crime saga, KP horror. Now I'm working on a film that's supposed to be kind of a neo-noir western.
Oh, okay, interesting.
So each time I want to make something different, and yeah, I never want to make the same film twice. I have a film that I've written completely in French. I want to make a foreign language film, and so that's something I want to knock out. Yeah, like there's so many things I want to do. Animation, at one point I want to do it in like original hand drawn on the cell, animation in the style of like Ralph Bakshi.
Oh,
Who is
okay.
one
Yeah.
of my love that man to death. He is an amazing,
Oh,
brilliant
he's
artist
had
and
some great
director
films,
and filmmaker,
Wizards
and a
and
very
all
nice
that.
man. Oh, all of them. I've seen them all, but the one that's always inspired me the most was his last film, American Pop. I've never cried so hard in an animated film in my
I really
life.
liked American Pop. That's
But
actually,
brilliant.
yeah, I saw that when I was a kid. That is where, now, of course, it's got a
Oh,
lot of music in it because it follows different generations. But
mm.
that is where I fell in love with Bob Seger's Night Moves. And whenever I hear Night Moves, I think of that
Yes.
movie with the drug dealer singing Night Moves.
Say,
I cannot get past it. You know, just certain films you just think of when you hear that song, and or any song. And
mm,
yeah, that's a great one too. Yeah, no, he's a great filmmaker. And sadly, I only own one of his movies, and it's on Blu-ray, but that's Wizards. And I feel that was a must own.
great film.
Yeah, you know, especially with it being on
Oh yes,
Blu-ray.
that's a
So
fantastic film.
yeah, that's another one that
Oh
needs to
yeah,
be like
no,
a
that
4K
yeah.
version of. So but okay, well, let's
Oh,
see. Let's
oh.
so we'll start to wrap it up here so I can let you go because your kitty needs attention. And so people can see Right Ways Down. I saw it on Tubi. And what other where can people also watch it?
As of right now, I know it's on various streaming platforms on the Roku. I believe there was on UDU Digital. It was also on I think it's called Filmflex. The curation is just updated, so there's about 3 to 4 new streaming platforms it's just been selected for, but it will not go into effect probably within a few months or so. It usually takes about 2 or 3 months for it all to curate, or however long it takes for them to update their library. But I also know that I believe you can also see it on it's called Real House Media. You can actually rent it and purchase it digitally on there. I also believe there should be a DVD or Blu-ray option. There might not be though, but I'm currently trying to, as I said, cut a deal and see if I can find a distribution house that does Blu-rays and DVDs still, because I prefer having a physical medium.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, I would definitely pick it up if it was available on
Oh, thank you.
physical media. So yeah, definitely.
Oh, thank you very much. Yeah, I wish that they had laser discs still, because I would print that thing in a heartbeat. I still have all my laser discs. But yeah, honestly, it would be on the basic search channels on the Roku and on demand. I think it's on Vimeo on demand as well. But the big one right now is going to be Tubi TV, and then, like I said, in the next couple of months, it'll be changing over to various different platforms as well. Which I will also post an update as soon as I am told which platforms they will be. But for as right now, it's just the four. I believe it's the Vimeo on demand, Tubi TV, UDU Digital, and Bid Slate. I think it was on Bid Slate for a bit, but I think it's been taken off now. So I think that's one of the ones that are going to be updated.
And I'll put a link down below to it on Tubi. So is there anything that you would like to plug? Something from the past, present, or future?
To plug. Meaning, explain by plug, to plug.
Just do a promo or advertise, let people know what's out there. Killer Popcorn. That's one that is coming out soon.
Oh yes. Actually, I'm terrible with some of the terminology. I'm bad with space phones. Analog man in a digital world. But yes, it's true. but yes, I'm gonna be. Hopefully, it will be releasing soon. It is completed. I've just finished a new horror comedy fantasy film called Killer Popcorn. That will be coming out hopefully within the next few months, if not probably Halloween time. That was produced by Trevor Lane at Fast Lane Productions. It has amazing makeup effects by Miranda Dudley, and she actually designed all the monster and creature effects for that film. Beautiful, gorgeous prosthetics. It's all, majority of it is all practical, which I'm very proud and happy to say. I love practical effects. And then my project that I'm currently filming as we speak, we're about in the 5th or 6th week of principal photography, is for a passion project of mine called The Duke, which I'm currently working on and will probably be working on until the 31st of this month. And then I'm going to be taking a 6 to 8 month break after I get married. And then I'll be back in the
congratulations,
for,
early congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, and for people for people who don't know, with Killer Popcorn, which is coming out soon, it's shot out here in Las Vegas, and one of its primary locations is a video store. So, which is movies and candy. And Miranda Dudley has worked with both of us. So she worked on my Axis 1 and 2 and Meat Hook 4. So she's very talented. Look her up. And it also stars the great Drew Marvick, who now both of us have also worked with. So there's plenty of reasons to watch it. And the one thing that I will say about Rightways Down is a lot of people have issue with length. They're like, oh, I don't want to sit through something that's so long. Definitely sit through it. The length in this doesn't matter. It goes by very quickly. It does not feel like 3 hours. It goes by very fast. So, check it out, at least on Tubi. Like I said, I'll put a link down below, and keep watching it, because it just gets better and better. And there's more and more things to it. You can, check out everything that we talked about, and it's definitely worth watching. So I get a little, scared with these type of things, because I'm used to indie or micro budget films being 70 minutes. When I see 90 minutes, I'm like, oh, okay, maybe. But then when it gets higher than that, it's like, oh, I know they've used every single piece of footage they shot. And I know, God, and the credits are going to be 20 minutes long. And, this is not that at all. This is the exact opposite of what I've seen in the past. So I can't recommend it highly enough. Oh, yeah, sure. You're welcome.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that very much.
Oh, yeah. So, yeah, is there anything else?
Not that I can think of. I've had a wonderful time, though. This has been a really fun experience. I love.
Oh, thank you. Yes, I've had a great time too.
So thank you for having me, John. I do appreciate it. But yeah, I if anything I can add to anything, to whoever's listening, and if you don't already, obviously, if you do, you're obviously a film person. But watch more movies, and please watch movies that are not just in the last 30 years. Please. As Werner Herzog said, read. I say watch. Because that's how I learned. You just watch movies, and if you love it, and I truly, Tarantino says this, you can do it. It's possible. I've seen kids make some amazing things with what I'm broadcasting off of this thing and it blows my mind. Like, I saw a movie called Tangerine on Netflix. The whole thing was shot on an iPhone. It was it was beautiful. It was very well done. And I know Soderbergh's done it a couple times. So no excuses. That's all I can really say. Just make movies, make movies, please.
Yeah. Don't be one of those people, that says, well, I was born in 1990. I don't watch anything if it wasn't before 1990. Which to me doesn't make any sense. I even think it was a Saturday Night Live skit at one point too, because it was so ridiculous that people were saying it. Because it's I think young people tend to mimic each other, that they don't, like I said, I'm 53. I was born in 1967. Well, my favorite film was actually in 1967 was The Graduate. And but that
Great
doesn't
film.
mean just because I was born in 67 and the film was made in 67, I shouldn't watch anything before that. And you got silent
No.
movies and you got film, 20s, 30s, 40s. I mean, you got well over 100 years of movies that you can watch. So don't just pick something that somebody made in their backyard in 2 days. Actually watch The French Connection or watch The Maltese Falcon.
Oh,
Watch Citizen Kane. Watch these movies and
oh,
you'll get a lot
please.
more out of it. So yeah,
No,
I
a
agree.
100%. Um, and other than that, the only other thing I can say is if you can, um, I say this because I love the medium. Um, shoot shoot film if you can, and shoot digital. I use digital and I use film, but if you can, the reason I say that is less and less people are shooting on it. It is costly, but it's worth it, and it's something that's been around for, as you said, over 100 years. And I don't I would be very sad to see it go, because people in the indie crowd feel that it's more costly than digital. I find it's about the same actually. So if you can, test and experiment. If you don't like it, shoot digitally. But
Right.
I just don't not try it. Don't think it's not available to you, because it is. There's a lot of ways to be able to go that route. Especially, I know there's a lot of other ones, people that are like me, that have that bug. I call it a bug because we're very sick people. We know how much that stuff costs, but we still keep trying to do it.
Oh yeah. I did it back in
But
college. I shot on Super 8.
yeah,
I've
we
shot
don't
on 8
want to get
millimeter,
better
16
either. We
millimeter.
always try to,
Yeah, it's expensive. It takes a
that's what
lot
we
of
gotta say. We
time,
we were file for, but it's so beautiful.
but it looks great. Yeah,
We've actually converted the Duke, which it does. Yeah, it looks great. But no, the film I'm shooting right now, the Duke, we've actually converted the film gate. So instead of it shooting at 133, it'll shoot at a 185. So we'll actually maximize the full amount of film stock on the 60 millimeter negative.
nice.
So it's almost, it'll look, the reason I choose 16 is because I want to have that older tech, not technicolor, that's not the right term. I like that grittier feel. I like having a little bit more grain in my film, because I sometimes notice that 35 nowadays looks a lot more like digital. Um, and if it looks like digital, just shoot digitally, because then you save all your money. But if you're gonna shoot, I figure if you shoot on the 16, you get that authentic look that we like, and from those older periods like French Connection, things like that. And then I like to color grade it in the 3 strip. I'm very old school. I like Technicolor. I like Metro Color, like 2 strip, 3 strip. So I try to encourage, and the reason I'm saying all this right now in the interview is so that whoever's listening, look up all these things. If you have never heard of these things, or if you have always shown an interest but figured it was out of the ballpark, please do. Please go and experiment and have fun. That's honestly what it's all about. I know I always do every time I go out. I have a wonderful time.
Well, and the film that I would recommend for people to watch is Possessor, is Brandon Cronenberg's film,
Oh,
and
oh,
it has actually changed the way I look at film, because he does use different film stocks. He uses different digital stocks. He uses different digital cameras. All the lighting is actually on set. He said that from the interview that I saw with him. It's not done in post. It's literally a film that I now look at film differently, even being at my age. I just think that it's one of those movies that this is a guy who, granted, he came off of his dad's legacy, but he's a different filmmaker. And it's worth watching if people want to kind of see what you could do with different, filmmaking methods, instead of just aiming your phone or just aiming a digital camera. It's well worth it.
right. Absolutely. And yeah, 100%. I could talk all day. I love the process.
Yeah, we should wrap this up because we're getting up to 2 hours here. So let's okay. So we are going to wrap this up, so you guys don't click off too soon, and try to keep it at a decent length. Something you can also play in the background too. if it's longer than you wanted. But well, I want to thank you for being here. I really appreciate it. This was a great interview. I had a lot of fun. And man, I mostly just went off my notes. I didn't even go off of like my regular sheet that I go off of, because there were so many questions that I had. I mean, that's another 2 hours right there, just going off of the actual sheet.
Oh no, like I said, I enjoyed all of it. I'm happy to answer them regardless. No, thank you. It was a wonderful experience.
Great. Well, yeah, we'll definitely have you back for another film. So, well, I'm the only person doing this, so I'll have you back for another film. Maybe for Killer Popcorn, and then that way, we could discuss that, please. or whatever comes next. So, okay, well, I am going to sign off, and thank you everybody for watching another episode of One Filmmaker, One Film, and I will see you on the next one. Bye.
Thank you for having me, John.
You're welcome. Thank you.